American Abrams will fight the Russians. This is going to be a reality. The Russian-Ukrainian war is becoming increasingly fierce. By the winter of 2022-2023, the sides had reached the peak of their capabilities. Everything is frozen in a delicate balance. Like arm wrestlers when their hands clasped together are frozen and vibrate in terrible tension. But it can't go on like that. One arm is bound to win, tipping the opponent's arm harder and faster. The US and other Western allies, to give the Ukrainian army an extra, perhaps decisive boost, have agreed to supply it with hundreds of tanks, mostly Western-made. These are German Leopards of modifications 2A4, 2A5, and 2A6, British Challengers II, and American Abrams. US President Joe Biden has stated that 31 Abrams will be delivered. In this video, we'll talk about this main battle tank of the US Army from the point of view of how it will help Ukraine win. Before considering this tank, it's necessary to determine exactly which of its modifications will be delivered to Ukraine. After all, the Abrams, or more precisely the M1 Abrams, which was produced from 1980 to 1966, and about 10,300 vehicles were produced, has 6 main modifications, which have different technical characteristics and are sometimes significant. Earlier, it was stated that the M1A1 tanks, which have been produced since 1984 and which are now removed from service with the U.S. troops, will be delivered. Of course, this modification cannot boast any unique characteristics by today's standards. But it was those tanks that smashed an Iraqi tank group in 1991 during the battle that went down in history as the 73 Easting Battle, which is considered the last major tank battle of the 20th century. The 2 Iraqi tank brigades then lost 160 tanks, mostly T-72s and some T-62s and T-55s, 180 BMPs and APCs, and 12 artillery pieces. The Americans have lost only 1 man from the crew of the reconnaissance Bradley M3. It was hit by a shell of the Iraqi BMP-1. But the representative of the Pentagon's SABRINA SINGH announced that the armed forces of Ukraine will receive the Abrams tanks in the M1A2 modification, but without a very important component, depleted uranium armor. This technology is secret and is not exported even to the closest allies of the United States. Also, the Pentagon representative added that for the sake of state secrecy, she would not go into further specifications and specify the characteristics of the tanks. Based on this information, we'll assume that 31 units of an Abrams modification M1A2 SEP V3 will arrive in Ukraine. What are the features of this vehicle? It's a classic tank with a crew of 4. The most distinctive feature of the tank is its massive multi-layer armor, which gives the vehicle a rough, angular look and brings its combat weight up to 63 tons. The most protected is the front projection of the turret and hull. To protect against cumulative or subcaliber projectiles, combined armor modules are used, consisting of 2 thick sheets of metal and a filler placed between them. The latter originally consisted of ceramic tiles, later supplemented by elements of depleted uranium, which, as mentioned above, for tanks that are designed for Ukraine, will be removed. The Abrams is equipped with an AVCO LYCOMING AGT 1500 gas turbine propulsion system with a power output of 1500 horsepower. Thanks to such power, the tank has a very high power-to-weight ratio of up to 28 horsepower per ton in different modifications, surpassing any other tank in this respect. For example, the Russian T-90 Proyev tank, which is the most advanced tank used by Russia in this war, has only 24 horsepower per ton weight. The tank is armed with a 120mm M256 cannon, which is a modification of the RH-120 gun developed by Rheinmetall for the Leopard 2 tank. This gun is biplane stabilized, has excellent accuracy at ranges of 600 to 12,000 meters, and uses a wide range of ammunition: subcaliber with depleted uranium fins and core, shaped charge, explosive subcaliber, anti-personnel. Ammunition is 40 to 42 rounds, of which 36 are placed in the turret aft and 4 or 6 inside the hull. In addition to the cannon, Abrams can also use machine guns, of which there are 3. The roof of the turret has an anti-aircraft machine gun, which can be equipped with an M240 machine gun in 7.62mm caliber or Browning M2HB in 12.7mm caliber. The other 2 machine guns are M240s, one paired with the cannon and the other placed in front of the loader's hatch. In addition, the Abrams is equipped with 66mm smoke grenade launchers on the sides of the turret. The fire control system is one of the main trump cards of the Abrams. It's considered to be the best in the world today. Aiming at a tank-type target is provided at a distance of up to 3.1 miles. The gunner can use both daytime and infrared channels. The crew commander can also fire and aim independently. Both stationary and moving objects can be hit. All-round visibility is provided by 8 periscopes. Communication with the command and other combat vehicles can be done via satellite, even using commercial networks. But the main thing that distinguishes the M1A2 SEP V3 from older modifications is the presence of the FB-CB2 system, which made the tank meet the requirements of the network-centric warfare concept. However, experts are sure that this secret equipment will be removed from the tanks for Ukraine. As a result of the 2003 war in Iraq, the Special Tank Urban Survival Unit, abbreviated TUSK, designed to protect tanks against the enemy's handheld anti-tank weapons, was developed for the Abrams. Its main element is the dynamic protection of ARIT 1 and ARIT 2. ARIT 1 are rectangular blocks in which sloped sheets of steel alternate with sheets of explosive material, thereby creating a layered pie of armor and explosives. When they're hit by a cumulative projectile, this explosive material explodes and erodes the cumulative jet. ARIT 2 are curved-shaped blocks in which the outer layer is steel, followed by a layer of explosive. ARIT 2 is mounted on top of ARIT 1 on the side projections of the tank. Such dynamic protection is equivalent to 500mm thick armor. That is, it protects the tank from handheld anti-tank grenade launchers, but not from anti-tank missiles. Therefore, the Americans began to install on Abrams's not only dynamic protection, but also active protection system Trophy. It's a development of the Israeli company Rafael. This system has proved itself in the protection of Israeli tanks in combat clashes in the Gaza Strip. It looks like this. ELTA radar stations with 4 antennas are installed on the tank, which registers the missile's approach. This data makes it possible to calculate its trajectory, and then the launch of high explosive ammunition, fixed on the sides of the turret, destroys the missile on approach. But the Trophy has several weaknesses. For example, the active protection system is not capable of repelling high-speed anti-tank missiles, for example, those used by Russian attack helicopters or CHRYSANTHEMUM missiles. The weak point of the Abrams is also its weight. The machine weighs almost 63 tons. It's 25 tons heavier than the Russian T-72. The Abrams runs well on fairly hard ground due to the turbine installed, but it's very heavy. It rakes the caterpillars out from under itself virtually all the soil and sits on the belly on weak soil fails. The placement of the ammunition in the rear compartment of the turret is also considered a weakness. Grenadiers try to hit it. On the top of the turret, above the ammo, are bouncer panels that should protect the crew during the burnout of the powder in the casings when the ammo hits and ignites the shells, diverting the energy of the flame upwards. But the tank would be permanently disabled in any case. The huge gap between the turret and the hull does not add to the protection. In addition, the Abrams are one of the most oversized tanks. It's noticeably longer, taller, and wider than Russian tanks. That is, it's easier to get into such a barn. There are bound to be big problems with the operation of these machines in Ukraine as well. The U.S. side acknowledged that the Abramses are modern, complex machines that require skilled maintenance. It may well repeat the story with the French Caesar SAUs, half of which are used in Ukraine and are constantly under repair in Poland or the Baltics. There will also be a problem with fuel. Abrams uses JP-8 jet fuel, and very heavily, almost 3 gallons per mile of travel. Drove 50 miles, burned 150 gallons of fuel. So delivering tanks of this fuel to Ukraine will be a constant headache for the U.S. and Ukrainian military. Well, the last problem is the training of the crew. It's unlikely that one can learn to operate this modern machine thoroughly in a couple of months, and the Ukrainians will be confronted by modern Russian tanks under the control of very skilled crews who've been trained for much longer. But as the ancient Romans used to say, per aspera ad astra, through thorns to the stars. In Ukraine, Abrams will pass a tough test to prove that it's currently the best tank in the world, and we'll wish him luck and keep our fingers crossed. One last point. Of course, the 200 to 300 tanks that the Western allies are going to supply will not allow Ukraine to win this war. It needs at least 2,000 to 3,000 tanks, and only Abrams can provide such a number, so it needs double luck. What do you think about it? Write about it in the comments below. As always, Don't forget to subscribe. There are a lot of interesting reviews ahead.